So hello everyone and a big welcome to today's webinar. This is the third webinar in our Toolkit webinar series, and today we're looking at the power of people recruiting, managing and motivating your team. The first and second webinar in the series explored kickstarting your project, effective project management and food safety 101. They are both available to watch on our YouTube channel. So it's fantastic to have you all here today as we come together to explore how we can reduce food waste and ensure good food reaches those who need it most in our communities. My name is Kerry and I'm the Education Coordinator here at FoodCloud. For those of you who aren't too familiar with FoodCloud and what we do, FoodCloud is a non-profit social enterprise working to tackle the twin issues of food waste and food insecurity. So our mission is to transform surplus food into opportunities to make the world a kinder place. FoodCloud redistributes surplus food from the food industry to a network of charity and community partners. In Ireland, FoodCloud redistributes surplus food to over 700 community groups. This not only prevents good food from going to waste, but it also strengthens communities by ensuring that more people have access to nutritious meals, helps community organisations save money on food bills, promotes personal well-being, and ensures that everyone plays their part in tackling climate breakdown. So this webinar series is all about empowering you, whether you're a passionate individual, part of a local group, or simply want to make a difference in your community. We'll walk you through the FoodCloud Academy Toolkit, which is a step-by-step guide to help you start and run a food sharing project in your area. So community food sharing project, what is it? It is any initiative that shares good food that would have gone to waste, offering it for free or at a low cost. So each webinar will break the toolkit down into easy to follow parts, highlighting the most important things to consider. Plus, you'll hear directly from a FoodCloud expert and community partners who've already set up successful projects and are ready to share their experiences with you. So this webinar series runs every 2 weeks, and each week our 30-minute webinar will be covering different areas. So these include Kickstart and Grow, Essential Steps and Best Practices for a Successful Food Project, Food Safety 101, Essential Laws and Guidance for Food Sharing Projects, the power of people, recruiting, managing and motivating your team. Next, we'll look at bringing your project to life, practical steps for success. After that, we'll look at making an impact, how to share your project stories effectively. And then finally, funding made simple, securing support with confidence. So today's webinar will be short, practical and packed with useful insights for both a FoodCloud expert and a community member who has been in your shoes. So what to expect from today's webinar? So we're going to look at how you can recruit, manage and motivate your team effectively, deciding what positions you think are needed for your project to make the biggest impact, how to create a positive volunteer experience, best practices for HR and team management, and then finally, what training is needed. So the FoodCloud expert today is Marzia, FoodCloud's volunteer coordinator, and our community partner today is Ruth MacGarvey from the Exchange in Buncrana, and both will be sharing their first-hand experiences. There will be a chance for questions and answers after the presentation, so feel free to drop your questions in the chat. We hope this session leaves you feeling inspired and equipped with the tools you need to take action in your community. So let's dive right in, and I would like to introduce Marzia, who will start us off.
Thank you so much, Kerry, and thank you everybody for attending this session today. As Kerry said, my name is Marzia Doro and I'm the volunteer coordinator at FoodCloud. Today I'll be presenting you a little bit about our volunteering program, but also our experiences with recruiting, managing and motivating your volunteer team. If we want to move to the next slide, please. To give you some context, we run a program that involves different cohorts of volunteers. So we have groups of corporate volunteers that come from, there are employees of corporate organizations that want to support our cause. And so they come in group of 6 to 15, depending on the activity. And they volunteer on a one-day basis in the different activities that you see here. So in our warehouses or in our community kitchen, or even collecting unharvested crops. But the focus of today will be on community volunteering. And so these are individuals that live in the areas that are close to our hubs and that want to support us for many different reasons. And they can do so by becoming warehouse assistants or van drivers and perform food deliveries, or they can support us with administrative duties of different kinds. And So today I'm going to tell you a little bit more about the community volunteering, and in particular recruiting, managing, and keeping these volunteers motivated and engaged with your cause. In the next slide then, I've collected here a few suggestions on the different aspects of volunteer management in general. So how you find the right people to support your mission, how to stay on top of your volunteer schedule, and how to make your volunteers feel motivated and valued. These tips are all, result of my experience in FoodCloud, and I'm going to try and, include as much as possible examples that are relative to my role and this organization. So when it comes to volunteer recruitment, then 3 points that I would like to stress in order to find the right people to support your mission. The role description of your volunteer tasks or the jobs that you want to fill are very much a key part of this work. The role description needs to be concise and clear and set the right expectations for the volunteer. A volunteer needs to know exactly what they're asked and expected by the organization, but also what they can get out of the volunteering experience. Here you have the opportunity as well to stress any key elements to that need to be fulfilled by the volunteer to have a successful experience. In our case, for example, a lot of the volunteering happens in a warehousing context. So things like manual handling and a certain level of fitness from volunteers is required. We try to make obviously accommodation as much as possible to have a more inclusive experience, but at the same time, these elements, especially the manual handling aspect of the work, is really important. And so we stress it in every role description that we put out through our channels. But you also want to make the role description very appealing to volunteers and catchy, because there are so many opportunities these days. So you want yours to be to catch the attention of the volunteers you want to attract. And so my recommendation is to highlight any learning opportunities, any capacity, for example, to upskill your volunteers, but also appeal to their core values and to the ethos that guides your mission that can resonate with theirs. In our case, for example, FoodCloud helps our volunteers to get working experience in a warehousing context, but it's also a great opportunity to give back to local community or to fight and tackle food insecurity, but also support climate action in reducing food waste. So all these things are definitely important in your role description and needs to be highlighted. Obviously, be prepared to adapt your strategy, your recruitment strategy for roles that are a little bit more complicated to hire for, and maybe try different channels of promoting, or adapt your role description maybe to reduce the minimum level of commitment. And so in our case, for example, recruiting for volunteer drivers has proven to be quite complicated. So we had to find different, tactics to try and attract more attention around that role. Moving on then, volunteer management is, it can be quite complicated, especially as an organization grows and as the number of volunteers that support the mission grow as well. When you have recruited the right volunteers, you want to have a nice process to onboard them and give them a nice experience with your induction as well. So make sure you have all that set out, and also from a documentation point of view, prepare all the documents that are relative to the type of volunteering work that they need to do. For example, check if you need to have Garda vetting or only need a volunteer agreement. In our case, for example, we do a screening call, an induction, and then after that, I send a volunteer agreement alongside with a welcome pack that contains the volunteer policy, the volunteer handbook, and the privacy policy, for example. When it comes to managing the actual schedule of volunteers, up until last year, we used to have a system of spreadsheets to have the roster of volunteers in our warehouse, but also to monitor the active and inactive volunteers to create like a sort of database. But investing in a volunteer management software could support you to automatize some of these tasks and maybe report back on volunteer hours completed. We've done that. We had Salesforce before, so now we are trying a different software, and that has been really helpful. But it could be a challenge as well if you have a tight budget, and so a user spreadsheet can support in the meantime. In our case, FoodCloud has volunteers that are located in different parts of Ireland or work remotely as well. So internal communication can be a challenge if you rely on other managers, for example, to let you know if a volunteer dropped out or if they're not attending their shifts correctly. And so relying on creating a good internal communication could be a great support, especially when it comes to a high turnover of volunteers that change a lot throughout the weeks and the months. So make sure you recruit a good number of people also to back up this constant change. And then the most important part of volunteer management, which is appreciation and engagement. Many volunteers will be already very much engaged with the cause if you have appealed to their values. So if they feel like they're being impactful in their community and they're living their values, they're going to be happy already by doing the work in itself. But you don't have to give that for granted. And so spending time, for example, with your volunteers, getting to know them, making sure that they feel like they're part of something bigger is really, really important. And to do that, you also want to recognize them verbally, like really saying verbal thank yous, introduce them to other members of the staff that maybe they're not constantly in contact with is also very important. And then there's the organization of events and upskilling opportunities. When it comes to the organization of events, for example, you might want to create rituals. So there's always a summer event or always a Christmas event so that they can know, they have an opportunity to get together, and it's something that creates more of a sense of community in your group of volunteers. But also for those that are more interested in making a career in the sector that is linked to your mission, any opportunity to learn something new, try other volunteer roles, or learning more about your organization are also more than welcome to engage your volunteers and to keep them interested in the organization. One challenge that I have been experiencing, though, is to keep volunteers that work remotely engaged. And so since they might not be in Dublin, and so they might not be able to attend all the events, it's also a little bit more complicated to keep them involved and also to make them feel like they are appreciated. So what I've done is, what we've done here in FoodCloud is also to share a newsletter with all the volunteers to give them the opportunity to access statistics and impact reports to see exactly what they are contributing to achieve. But also, again, with the learning opportunities, we can do online sessions. And why not? You can also organize online events, which are obviously we prefer in-person events, but online events can also support you in at least checking in with them and have like I don't know, an afternoon tea together to chat and check on them and see how they're getting on. With that, I think I've run out of my time, but thank you so much. I hope my tips are going to be useful to you, and I'm open to questions as well. Thank you.
Excellent. Thank you so much, Marzia. That was brilliant. Yeah, fantastic. Now, Ruth, we will move to you. So Ruth from the Buncrana Community Pantry or the Exchange.
Good afternoon, everybody. Yes, the Exchange is a voluntary-owned community centre in Buncrana, County Donegal, and we began with a food pantry, a food bank during lockdown, but we very quickly wanted to transition to become a food pantry from our mother organisation, which is Clonmany Community Pantry. We saw that this was a model of operating that enabled us to reduce food waste, but continue to tackle the issues of food poverty in our area and really make people feel that they're part of a cause that is something very, very worthwhile. We've had an amazing partnership with FoodCloud and with Clonmany over the last year, and have had a wonderful membership, now a growing membership of people in our community who wanted to be part of this vision. In very much our volunteers are a key part of it. And the first that begins with for them is sharing the vision. And if we can have the next slide, yeah. So we actually have just a little shed where we gather FoodCloud donations and make those available to the public. But we need volunteers to man the shed when we're open 3 days a week. And how could we do that? We wanted people who come on board who really understood what our message was, what our ethos was about, and helping them to say, yeah, we want to be a part of this. We are making a positive contribution to reducing food waste and to making sure that people who are on a very low income or who are struggling can access very low cost food and good quality food. And that's been an incredible journey that we've been sharing together. One of the things that we realized very quickly that we wanted a way to encourage a sense of commitment among our volunteers. And so one of our volunteers suggested having a sort of volunteer signing sheet. So every time they come along, we give them a stamp or a signature. And for several milestones, we can reward them. So once they've volunteered 10 times, they get a bronze certificate. 25 times, they get a silver certificate. And when they have volunteered 50 times, they get a gold certificate and a small voucher as well. The amazing thing is every volunteer for us at our food pantry represents 2 hours. So if somebody gets their gold certificate, they have had 100 hours of service. And we've had an amazing response to this. People love it. We're able to mark their achievements, to celebrate those achievements together and to reward them for what they've done. And these are great ways because people are finding this useful for job applications. We have a number of asylum seekers who are working with us in the pantry, and they find this is helpful to demonstrate that they're not just asylum seekers, but they're actually contributing really positively to our local community. So if I can get the next slide. And this is one of our, Rose was actually, this was the first time she received her certificate, her bronze certificate, but she eventually went on to complete 100 hours of volunteering with us and to achieve that gold certificate. That actually helped her when she was applying for jobs, and she's now unfortunately moved on from us because she has a full-time job in the local community. But her volunteering experience really helped that. We found this incredible way to motivate people to keep going and to be part of us. We have now a whole set of volunteers who are now working towards their Diamond Award, which will be the equivalent of 200 hours of volunteering. We've got such a team. They're so dedicated and we love them so much. Obviously, people who are drivers who are picking up FoodCloud donations, those who are manning the centre, and those who are just helping even once in a while. But it's in a way has made such a team feel and an opportunity to maintain the project.
Is that you finished with?
That's really
fantastic.
I don't know if anyone has any questions. Yeah.
Yes, anybody with any questions, just pop it into the chat and I will put it to our presenters. Ruth, that's, I suppose, that piece on the encouraging commitment and the reward system. I mean, that sounds amazing. It sounds, yeah, it's just, I'm blown away by it. But I suppose, what around that, what is the greatest challenge that you've faced? I mean, it sounds amazing and it's brilliant, but is there any challenges that people starting out should be aware of?
I suppose that sense of that natural challenge is that when people come to the end of their volunteering, I like Rose, who I mentioned, she volunteered with us for 100 hours, but then she got a full-time job, so she needed to move on. And we obviously had to say a very sad goodbye to her. And that's hard, but obviously we then have to recruit new people to come on board. And that is the process of volunteering. We will always find that there are people who have to move on. And we want to be able to have an open door to encourage and train new people to come on board constantly. And that is where I think the vision sharing is so, so important.
Excellent. I see Justina has her hand up. Justina, would you like to ask your question?
Yeah. Hi, guys. This is Justina here in Trim Family Resource Centre. Can you hear me?
We can, yes, thank you.
Okay, lovely. So my question, I'm after typing in, it's do you have a dedicated staff member looking after volunteers? Because I find that, you know, if you have a staff member who's responsible maybe for looking after the pantry or the food bank, and they also have to, you know, look after volunteers, it might be too much.
For ourselves, we're an entirely voluntary run community centre and food pantry. So that does come on me. That's my role, is to look after the volunteers and to help oversee the whole operation. But yes, it is very, very important that that is a role that is part of running the system.
Thank you.
Yes, and if I can just jump in, when it comes to FoodCloud, we do have a volunteer team. So as the organization grows, you'll definitely need a person that that is dedicated full-time to the management of volunteers. So I personally work on the community side of volunteering, but my manager, Lisa, will be taking care of corporate volunteering, for example. So yes, it's something that it's important to have somebody that specifically works on that.
And do you find it challenging, Ruth, in that role of overseeing and managing it all?
It's a challenge, but it's a challenge I love, because we're so excited about this project. It has been really, really satisfying. And I think to see even the volunteers themselves really buying into this and saying, I'm part of something really good. I'm part of something that is making a difference. And we are constantly reminding people that that's what we're doing and what we're achieving together. That is what makes it so satisfying.
Excellent, excellent. Marzia, can I just ask you a question? You mentioned a few times in your presentation channels and using channels to promote different aspects and to get the word out there and so on. Just around that can you tell me tell us anything more about the channels that you use to promote volunteer opportunities?
Yes, so it really depends on the type of roles that you are looking to fill. I'm very, very grateful to the work of Volunteer Ireland to, provide a very good platform to really showcase and to promote active roles within FoodCloud. Other opportunities or really to create awareness around the volunteering program are obviously your social media platforms, and it depends on your on the kind of the type of target or the age of the volunteers that you want to reach out to. But for example, we have a Facebook page, an Instagram page, and a LinkedIn page as well. So we try to cater and to kind of to tailor the communication based on the type of social media that we advertise for. And it's really, really nice when it comes to Instagram and Facebook as well to be able to share the stories and spotlight really our volunteers. Because some of them are really, really the expert, and I really resonate with what Ruth is saying, with the fact that it's a very beautiful work to have the opportunity. It's actually a privilege to have the opportunity to get to meet some of the volunteers that have been working within FoodCloud for almost over 10 years really. They've been with us for since the beginning of the operation. So to be able to showcase through our social media platforms, to our to participation of events or things like that, even the stories of the people that are helping us achieve what we achieve, is really important. And so yes, so social media platforms, Volunteer Ireland, and then we also resort a lot on word of mouth and actually reaching out to local libraries or community centers, because we want to operate and involve the people in the same neighborhood as we operate. That's the power of the local community, and we want to harness that. So they are also the people that are more motivated, they have a better chance to, to stay on for a longer time. And that refers as well to anybody in direct provision centers or that come from a background of displacement as well. It's a nice way for them to have a volunteering opportunity that is not too far away from where they are based at the minute. So yeah, stay creative and stay open to other channels and opportunities as well.
Excellent. And I suppose that word of mouth piece and that importance of word of mouth actually probably resonates with you, Ruth, in terms of that volunteer experience and reward system that you have in place. I imagine the word spreads about what an excellent opportunity that is, and I suppose how people can use it to find employment or upskill, or even as an addition to the CV. Do you find that?
Yeah, absolutely. And I think that's an important aspect. We do encourage our volunteers to share the word, spread the word, and tell others. If you would like to be part of something like this, if this would be helpful for you. I mean, as you say, building your CV, making yourself more attractive to employers. These are important aspects for anybody, whether it's young or old. And in our area where there is, a number of people looking for work, they're finding that they're doing something so positive is helpful, even in potentially an entry into the food business, and that can be very helpful.
Excellent. We have one question, and then I want to go back to Marzia just to finish up. But Ruth, this is for you. Are you relying completely on food donations, and how do you source all the food? And that's from Marie.
Yeah, we are now fully moved across to a community pantry model, which means that our food is sourced through FoodCloud, both as part of as our partnership with Clonmany, but also from the local supermarkets. So we are. This is much more sustainable model than when we were a food bank, and it's enabled us to serve a much wider sector of the community.
Excellent, excellent. Thanks, Ruth. And Marzia, I'll just jump back to you for a second before we finish up. You mentioned, and I think it's a really important, the idea of the volunteer experience, and obviously, Ruth, you talked more about that. But you also mentioned the role description, Marzia. So I suppose just for people listening, just to talk about the importance of matching that role description of what's needed in terms of volunteering for your project to make it the impact, and matching that with the volunteer experience so that the volunteer gets the most out of it as well.
Yes, that's a very important kind of balance to strike. You want to, for example, let's take the example of the food delivery driver. That is a very crucial role to our operation. Without a volunteer driver, we don't have anybody delivering food to the Buncrana community pantry, for example, or other charities that we support across Ireland. And so, but we also need somebody that has a valid driving license in Ireland that has no penalty points. So it kind of creates a very rigid role that could be scary to somebody that is looking for volunteering opportunity. And for example, I had to look at the minimum time of commitment. I had to lower it from 6 months minimum to 3 months minimum to make it more like it's a doable thing, like to make it look like it's something that is welcoming and not too rigid or too strict, or actually really scary, like people that are not, that don't feel confident enough to apply for the role, or maybe they are. So to be able to have a very clear expectation of what is asked of you as a volunteer, but also to make sure that, hey, it's nothing scary. There is a staggered, there's training, there is support, there's shadowing, but also it's a beautiful role, driving a van, being in contact with the charities that we work with, that we directly support, makes you a steward for the cause, makes you actually hand the food out to the charity. That's really significant, impactful, and you'll see it and you'll touch it and you'll feel it. So to be able to do both and have a very nice and precise role description, but also highly motivating one, will definitely get you the right people that will recognize themselves in the description they read.
Excellent. Thank you so much. Thank you both. So I'm going to bring these discussions to a close for today. Our next webinar, themed Bringing Your Project to Life, Practical Steps for Success, is on June 18th at 12:30 to 1, and we invite you to join us again, and you can use the same link as today. So I'd like to thank once again the brilliant presenters and to you all for joining. This was really insightful, and I hope that each and every one of you have been inspired from the presentations and discussions today. So to watch the webinar again, check out our FoodCloud YouTube channel and share on your socials. And to get more information on setting up a food sharing project, check out our toolkit at food.cloud/academy/toolkits. Have a great afternoon, everyone, and thank you all once again. Bye-bye.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Thank you, guys.